Hi, everyone. My name is Vincenzo Berghella. Once again, welcome to the Extraordinaire Within Me, which is the idea of Kavita and Narang, who is here co-hosting with me. And Kavita, why don't you take it away? We have a wonderful guest today.
Yes, thank you so much, Vince, and thank you again to all our audience who tune in and join us every month to listen to such inspiring stories. And today we have an absolutely incredible guest that we're so excited, and I'm sure you guys are all ready to be inspired. It's Dr. Joanne Stone. Dr. Joanne Stone is a maternal fetal medicine specialist and chair of the Department of OBGYN and Reproductive Science at the UConn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai. She was also the past president for the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine and currently also serves as the director of the Mount Sinai Rainbow Clinic that provides, enhanced prenatal care following stillbirth. We're so excited to have you here with us, Joanne. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's like beyond an
And
honor. What should I say something?
yeah.
Yeah. So just
No,
I'm
no,
so
no, go ahead.
I'm so humbled to be here, and I can't thank you guys enough for having me. I'm just awed by all the other people you've had, and just so appreciate and honored by this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we love to start our sessions with gratitude. So if you'd like to go ahead and maybe share one thing you're grateful for, and then we'll take turns and do that.
So Mother's Day is coming up next
Yeah.
weekend, and so and my mother's birthday is this coming Thursday, and she's turning 104.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and she's amazing. I mean, she plays bridge like 3 times a week, and she just buys clothes and jewelry. I mean, she's got a different outfit every time I see her. So I guess I'm thinking a lot about my mom, and also being a mom, and just so
Mhm.
grateful to have her and my father, who passed away a few years ago. But
I'm sorry.
they're incredible people, and my two amazing daughters and my husband, who made me mom. So I'm so grateful for that, for all those people in my life.
Wow. That's amazing. That's lots of wonderful milestones. It's a beautiful week to celebrate women and moms everywhere. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
How about you, Vince?
That's a tough act to follow. My mom, Joanne, is 87. She's well. I talked to her yesterday. um, Grateful to my wife, who is a mom of two herself, and I guess I'll dedicate it to the next generation. You mentioned your two daughters. Yesterday, I had my nephew as well as my two older sons around for brunch, and that's kind of what we do. I'm sure it'll come out in this hour. You've been a mentor to so many wonderful people, and so I'll dedicate it to them and how they make our life so much better. All those young,
Mhm.
inspiring people. Kavita, what about you?
Yeah, I think the theme is definitely family this week. Even for me, just really grateful for family. Half my family lives, 10,000 miles away across in Bangkok, Thailand. That's where I'm from. But just, having the technology, being able to connect with them every day and still, no matter the distance, just knowing that you feel close and feeling loved helps you continue to do all the things you want to do no matter how near or far you are from your family. So I'm just grateful for family this morning. Thank you. And Joanne, once we love to start our talk by trying to bring your journey back all the way to the beginning. And one of my favorite opening questions is, can you tell us a little bit about how your childhood shaped your life and career today?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I think there's so many ways. I mean, so um, my dad was the sixth of seven children. He was born in New York, but all of his older siblings were born in Russia. So he came over, and my mom was born in Poland and came over to New York, and both of them were, really poor growing up. And I mean, my dad was like, you had to eat really fast, otherwise you may not get the food that was on the table. Like if you didn't eat
Wow.
like so fast. They always sort of emphasize, working hard. I think my
Mhm.
dad was a psychoanalyst. He was a PhD, and he always wanted to go to medical school, but he couldn't afford it, so he became a psychologist. My mom started off as a dental hygienist. She always wanted to be a dentist. But she ends up, my dad encouraged her to go to school and get her master's in education. And she became a third grade teacher. And the work ethic that the two of them had was extraordinary. My dad would, he was a school psychologist during the day. He'd come home at 3:15, start seeing patients in the office, which was at home, at 3:30, came out at 5:45, had 15 minutes for dinner, went back into the office, and saw patients from 6 o'clock till 10 o'clock at night, saw patients on Saturday mornings, and then the rest of the weekend he would be working. His family owned an apartment building in Brooklyn. He managed that. So he was really a workaholic, but a wonderful dad. It was incredibly encouraging. And my mom also was an amazing teacher. And I used to love coming to watch her put on plays, school plays. And she was just really extraordinary. And she ended up, when she retired, she got really into sort of investing and things like that. So they're just incredible role models for work and support. And I have 3 sisters, and 2 of them were my parents had me when they were a lot older. And it was quite unusual at that time. They didn't, people weren't having kids in their, late 40s. So I have 3 older sisters, one that's 15 years older than me, and then 13, and then a year and a half, and then me. So I think my dad always made me feel, he never made me feel like they kept on trying for the boy. He always said, I wanted another daughter, and so that always made me feel, really special and loved.
Wow.
That's amazing. What do your sisters do, Joanne, if I can ask?
So my oldest sister is a art therapist. She's a psychotherapist. She lives in France. So she was about in her late 40s and had achieved some degree of success here. She was teaching, and she just took a vacation to France, and she met her future husband at an art festival in Avignon. She's very artistic. My mom's really artistic too. And she's there, and they met and fell in love, and they got married a few months later, and she moved over there without speaking any French. And then my oldest, the second, was a psychologist, and then she got into sort of administrative work, and retired. And then my other sister is in Philly. She's a dentist. So my parents got the doctor and the dentist.
I love it. The whole family.
Psychologist, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like your whole family is in some kind of service or therapy, or it just comes from a culture of like wanting to help people, and that's why it seems like you've just all done it so effortlessly. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I think helping people is really the theme, right? I would come home and sometimes I see my dad playing catch with one of his child patients, and playing catch outside, and just or ping pong in the house with the patients, and he was an extraordinary psychoanalyst. Yeah.
That's
what
wonderful.
part of New York were you in, if I can ask? What part of New York?
Long Island.
In Long Island, okay. And what did you speak at home? English? Or?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah, English.
Did you much Polish or other?
No.
The generation didn't pass.
Yeah, his mother really spoke Yiddish, actually.
Right.
And my mother's mother spoke English, so I never really could communicate very well with my father's mother.
Okay.
But
Wow. And how did that journey for you then begin? I'm sure you saw like service, but how did you go into OB or MFM? How was that journey like?
Growing up, it was still a time for me where, women were still not appreciated and it was like sort of the beginning of women's movement, I think. So I felt really, really strongly about that. I remember my best friend, Amy Gould, she's still my best friend, from like time we were 3. When we were in 8th grade, all the girls took home ec and the boys took shop. And so we were like, I want to take home ec, we want to take shop. So we went to the principal and said, we want to take shop. It's not fair. Why assume these roles, right? So so they let us take shop, and the shop teacher wasn't too thrilled. And the home ec teacher hated me. but after that they changed the whole curriculum so that the boys and girls each took home ec and shop. So, and my, I think my parents always encouraged me to speak out, and just, pursue whatever you wanted to do. And so it was always, I knew I wanted to go to medical school, and I knew I wanted to take care of women. So, and I remember being in medical school, and you're starting thinking about what residency are you applying to, and everybody kept on discouraging me from OB. They're like, the hours are so terrible, and why do you want to do that? So I spent a day with a dermatologist, and it was before cosmetic derm. Maybe it would have changed my opinion, but I was like, okay, I can't do derm, And then I spent a day with an ophthalmologist, and honestly, I think I don't know about you, but for OB/GYN and maternal, anything in the head and neck grosses me out. Like anything, down here and below is fine. But I was like, I'd rather spend 4 times the time doing something I love than, quarter of the time doing something I'm not passionate about.
Wow. Where were you at that time?
I was at Columbia for med school.
Medical school. So you've been in New York forever?
Yeah. I did my undergrad at Franklin Marshall.
Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, near us here.
Yeah, that was the only time I was outside of New York.
Yeah. One of my sons almost went to Franklin Marshall. Yeah, it was a pretty nice campus. Nice. Yeah. So New York is so much for you. I knew it, but now that I know that you grew up there, there's still a house in Long Island where.
Yeah, after my dad passed away, at 98.
Wow.
And worked until he had a stroke and then passed away. But
sorry.
They sold the house. My mom sold the house and moved to Great Neck.
Okay.
And so that's where she lives.
Wow. And one thing I wanted to touch on, since we're on family, is what you're passing on as well. You mentioned your daughters. I met your husband many times. Is a wonderful guy. Like, we can see the love from far away. Many dinners, many SMFM, et cetera. But also I had the pleasure to meet your daughters. I think, in a few SMFM as well, they came and whatever. And I think, to tell you the truth, I can give it out at the beginning of this. The thing that inspires me the most of you is, your daughters, your family, the legacy, what they do. If they don't mind, if they, I have sons of the same age, and sometimes when you're in your 20s or whatever, they don't like to be talked about. But I'm sure you're super proud.
I can't be more proud. I mean, they're very different people, and it's funny because I remember when my older daughter Chloe was born, you couldn't get I had a hard time of getting the sense of who she was until my younger one was born, and then you see the differences, right? And Chloe was, from the beginning, I remember my mother-in-law had hurt her knee, and every time she came over to visit, Chloe would, how's your knee? She just was that kind of had that kind of compassion. And Sabrina, from the time, I remember my father-in-law changing her diaper, and she's the only person who he ever changed a diaper for. He loved her. And she would be singing like when she was 6 months old, and she still is very musical, and she's very talented and creative in a very different way. So I think the thing that's, for me, that I'm so proud of in them, and it's really who they are. It's, it's not somehow, growing up in New York City, going to private schools, you're surrounded by people who, have way more means than we do. And they are so down to earth and so, good people. They care so much about other people and always trying to make other people feel great. Chloe, who she's going into, I guess hopefully she won't get mad at me. She's going to MFM. I think it was kept a secret for long enough, but she's always, baking cookies and thanking people and bringing it down to the clinic and thanking the scrub techs, and that's sort of, she makes sure that she's so grateful to everybody in her team. And Sabrina also is a wonderful sister and friend and a cutie pie. She came over last night just to say hi, and get hugs. So yeah.
That's
Aw.
great. Fantastic.
That's
Fantastic.
that's beautiful. Yeah, and I was wondering, you're talking about, how your upbringing with your dad, seeing him take care of patients and things like that. How has that translated into how you have now how you provide care to your patients, or how you show up as a physician today at all?
I think so. I definitely bring the component of really listening to a patient's story, and you have to be flexible. You can't be rigid in how you treat people, because you have to know where they're coming from. So,
Mm.
for example, I do a lot of multi-field pregnancy reductions, and now we do a lot of sort of elective radiofrequency ablations for
Mhm.
monodic twins. And whenever I'm counseling them, I'm always starting with like, tell me where are you coming from, so I know how to start the counseling, because everybody is
Mhm.
different, and some
Right.
people know what they want to do, and then you don't want to spend too much time going over multiple, like I go over all the risks, but you have to counsel in a way that makes them feel not guilty about whatever decision they want to make, because everybody comes in, most
Yeah.
of them, with that sort of feeling, that you want to
Yeah.
get pregnant and all this stuff. And so it's very hard for them emotionally. And same thing with the Rainbow Clinic patients that we
Yep.
see. They all have a different story, and all um, sort of bring the emotional, the loss that they feel with so much emotion, and asking them, do you want to, did you name your baby? Is it okay if I refer to your baby by the name? And everybody has a little bit of a different story there. So I think that's the psychologist in me.
I
And
love
same
that.
thing as with work too, like dealing with faculty members and things like that. You have to understand where they're coming
Yeah.
from.
It's all about
That's
personal relationship, isn't it?
sure.
And
Hmm.
always is. To get it to that level. It's wonder. It sounds like your parents really, you saw it at home, right?
Hmm.
During the day, your dad and his patients. It's great. It's I think parenting and mentoring. It's very similar. I do a lot of comparison. Between having fellows and having adult children, etc. And I think 90% it's what you do, and what example you set versus what you say. Any rules you can have, or I don't know if that was the same for you as a child, as a daughter. Getting kind of the example from your parents to follow, and then again, I'm very impressed by the fact that you're the Chloe and but both of them, Sabrina. But especially Chloe going into MFM, going to medicine. There's a lot of um, sons and daughters who rebel to that.
Hmm.
She works too much, or it's too much stress, or she took call last night and she wasn't here, and that didn't happen obviously for you.
Yeah, I think my husband's also a physician, and I think they
Hmm.
saw like the positivity in it all. I mean, they used to come to round with me, and they love to
Oh.
look at the babies through the window, and we'd bring muffins for nurses on Saturday mornings and things like that. But um, I think that they, they both want to do good. I mean, again, they are very different, but they care about people, and so I think for Chloe, it was just like a natural thing. So it was really interesting because I remember when she applied, she went to Penn for undergrad and had applied early decision, and 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 got in, and then she applied when she was a second year. Sinai has a flex med program where you get admitted to medical school in your second year, so you don't have to take MCATs and take other, some of the other mandatory courses. And when she got into flex med, and it has nothing, they don't really care as faculty if you're faculty or not. They evaluate the kids on their own. And she went, she never told me this, but she's like, I wanted this more than getting into Penn. Like
Uh,
she knew she wanted medicine, and I don't know. It's just, this has been just such a fit for her, and I draw in so much inspiration from her and from Sabrina. Like, they're I ask them advice, all the time, they have amazing emotional intelligence, and they're yeah. You learn from everybody, right? You can learn from everybody around you.
Well, especially from the ones closest to you,
Yeah.
you share DNA and you share, a past, and you share New York City and you share now medicine. I forgot what Sabrina does, if she's in New York or.
She's in New York. She's into does integrated marketing, and she works for BBC. So, growing up,
Wow.
she was like a theater kid. She did musical theater, and she still
Right.
does it in the community at after works theater, and that's her. And she loves singing, and that's her passion. So she worked for NBC, and now she works for BBC, and she really likes that. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I think what really shines through is from your own upbringing and what you've continued to give your family is to grow up in such a loving home, because I think that seems to really be the foundation, the love and the support. And you are as super accomplished in all the things that you do in all your roles, as a woman and talking to a lot of I think a lot of women struggle with is how do you balance that, being a mom and being present and being able to raise such strong and successful and happy, loving children, and still be able to do what you do at work with so much heart and dedication. How do you balance all of that for yourself?
I think it was a few things. One for me, I think living close by was a big deal, and there were different. You go through different phases of your professional life, and I had kids at a time. I was married for a long time before I had kids, and then I had kids. Chloe was, I think, born when I just finished fellowship. So I made it a priority that I would go to, always try to be the parent that attended the events at their schools, and I had the flexibility within, it was like just the right time. I had flexibility, so my partners would cover me, so I could run out at, Sabrina's birthday party, nursery school, or every year when Chloe was in 8th grade and Sabrina was in sixth grade and on, we did this community service trips to New Orleans, and my friend and I were the two parents. And so for many years, we started with a group of 6 kids, and by the time they were seniors, there was 40 kids, and the head of the middle school. And so always, making them a priority. And I'll never forget, I missed one of Sabrina's performances in high school, and she won't let me forget it. I was there at the school, and I got a call. I had to come back to work, and she won't let me forget that one. But every other one I was there for. So
That's awesome.
One of the things I'm proudest of, Joanne, is that they never complained. That it was there. Same thing. I live very close. In Philadelphia, like in New York City, you can Uber away 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and go to most within half an hour. We're all there swimming and soccer and basketball and rowing and the river and everything else. And I think that worked out well. Being present, and then you can always get things done maybe on the Uber over or while they're swimming, and the meet is all Saturday long. But it's so important to be there. There's no meeting paper, even patient that hopefully you can see the next day. That is more important than that. I think to all the young people, they need to, but they probably do a better job than we did anyway. But I think certainly I pride myself on that. It sounds like you do as well. That we were there, and also because you want them to pass it on. You want to be an example to them so that they do it to their kids, hopefully.
yeah.
And when you look back at your career, you've done so much, so many accomplishments. Is there one that you're most proud of, or you think about very fondly, like a certain role that you were in that was one of your favorites in any way?
So I think honestly, my all-time favorite was being fellowship director. I mean, I think that connection to the fellows, it still is important to me, and I don't have as much time with them as I used to, but just teaching them and watching them grow. And you just Vince said, it's like parenting, right? You know, when and also with the residents who I'm very close to, I meet with them every month, and um, you know, you're just so proud of their accomplishments. And I remember, you know, I'll just shout out Kate Connolly. She was my medical student, did her residency here, did her fellowship with me. I knew her from her first year of medical school, and you know, she went off to work with Mary Norton at UCSF. And like Mary called me like the first day, like she's so extraordinary, and she is, and she's incredible, and she's got 3 kids, and she does it all. So just, you know, seeing them, I mean, Cynthia Jamphy was my fellow, you know.
Right,
Wow.
right.
I mean, you know, you just look and you say, oh my God, you know, like I'm so proud of who they are. And it's not, you know, I mean, Cynthia, and, you know, she knew what she wanted to be. She knew, I think she had her career path set out from early on, something I didn't have. I didn't know what my career path would be. I think Cynthia probably had more of a vision for it. But yeah, Meredith Roshan, who's now on the board, like it's the best thing in the world, right? You get a text or a question from your former fellows, and what would you do under these circumstances, and this and that. So that was my favorite.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And you know, you said that you didn't have your career path set out, you know, and but how did your career evolve? Like how did those, you know, is some, let's say someone's kind of in the fellowship, you know, early career, and they're like, I want to do all these things. How did that journey kind of evolve for you to, you know, do the things that you've been able to do?
Yeah. You know, I think it's important for everybody to know that there's a lot of ups and downs, right? So my career path, you know, like I didn't get into my top choice residency program, but then I worked really hard. I loved the residency, and then I switched to Mount Sinai. I didn't start off at Mount Sinai. I knew they had a maternal fetal medicine fellowship. I knew I wanted to do MFM, and an opening came up, and so I said, you know, I wanted to make that switch. And I remember my husband saying to me, like, why? You're happy where you are, and this. I'm like, he said, if it were me, I wouldn't do. You know, why go to all that effort and start all over again? I'm like, well, you just said the magic words, and I'm gonna, you know, now I feel more than ever challenged to do it, right? So I interviewed here, and so I came in as a third year, which was not always so easy, coming in as a third year resident. And then I had an incredible mentor. I mean, Richard Berkowitz was my chair, and he's still a very close friend and mentor to me. And Lauren Lynch, who Vince, you
of
know
course,
Lauren,
very well.
she still is a great friend, and she was a real mentor for me. And I mean, I idolized her. I just wanted to be her. So that, you know, that got me on that trajectory. And then I was passed over to be division when she left, and the whole bunch of people left. Charlie Lockwood, Manny Alvarez, Lauren, they all left. And then, you know, sort of left by myself. I recruited a few people, and then I was passed over as the division director. And I remember Burke was having this really, like, I was at an SMFM meeting in Miami, and we had this very long conversation, and, you know, he told me the reason why he appointed somebody else. And that was a bit of a low for me, you know. And then, but, you know, you just keep on rising to the occasion and saying, you know, I'm not going to let this setback stop me. And I somehow I got involved with SMFM, which has been truly the best thing ever for me and my career. And just slowly, you know, it was a little bit late to the game, but putting yourself out there. And I would really stress this to younger people, because, you know, if you don't make that effort and put yourself out there and try to believe in yourself, even though we all, you know, I think suffer from imposter syndrome, and I certainly do, but you have to put yourself out there. And I remember, you know, I'm a little bit of a shy person, honestly, but I remember going to meetings, and when I got on the board, and we would show up on a Saturday because the board meeting was on Sunday, and I'm like, let me just call somebody and say, can we have dinner? Like, what are you doing for dinner? And that was like out of my comfort zone.
That. Yeah.
But you have to do you know, you have to do things like that. And then doing the Leadership Academy was really transformative for me. And I learned so much there. about how to be a better leader, and that inspired me to get my master's in healthcare leadership and delivery. And so, just don't be afraid to take a challenge, and strive. And same thing when, applying for the chair position was a long process. I remember we took a family trip to Greece, and I had to write this whole presentation, and I sat by the pool. I think I was by the pool the whole time with my computer working on stuff. And I remember the person in the hotel was like, "Are you ever going to stop working?" I'm like, "Oh, it's so much fun, but I get to look at the ocean in Santorini, and it's like what better place to get work done." But yeah, so
from the outside, trying to bring back so many memories, because I interviewed, I think for residence and for fellowship at Mount Sinai myself, and you always be Mount Sinai. You've been there for so long, and you've been the leader there for 30 years, for a long, long time. But it's interesting how you stuck it out. Same place. I think from the outside, I was, again, as I saw you as the leader, and then fellowship director, division director, then chair. Did you always? I think, again, from knowing you, I would have thought fellowship director and division director, certainly something you could have done even earlier, like you said, in your career, and longer and forever. And chair, was that something that as time went by, you were like, I need to do this. I love this place. I need, because chair, I see it as a very altruistic, position. You're empowering others. You're making the place bigger so that it gets better. You recruited amazing people from all over the place. So you clearly had the vision, not only, and it wasn't about you. It was about making the place a better place so that patients could get the best care. I don't know if you want to elucidate on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think at some point I had been division director and fellowship director for a long time, and I felt like I needed to take another challenge and also give other people opportunities, right? So you always want to make sure you're have opportunities for other faculty members, and so I really wanted to transform. First of all, make it a more academic department, more research, and do really raise women's health to the priority that it should be. And I think for a while it wasn't so much the priority,
right?
And even when I started as chair, I mean, I remember having this conversation with one of the leaders in finance, and well, women's health is not our priority. Well, so we made it a priority, and we're building an incredible new women's health center that's going to be really integrative in its approach, and we're going to have seamless care, so somebody can see a cardiologist, an endocrinologist, whatever they need. So we're building that. We have so many other different initiatives. So it's about really listening, getting people's ideas, and then trying to bring them to fruition. Sometimes you're successful, sometimes you're not, but we need, I felt the need to make sure that we're doing the best we can for our patients. We're redoing all the postpartum floors, so there's going to be spectacular opening up soon. There's just so much. We created a women's advisory board, which we never had, and have extraordinary people on the board who are just pillars of advocacy for women's health. So I'm so grateful, for them as well.
And Montana is huge, Penn here and Jefferson are taking over Columbia, Montana, whatever. I mean, how is that changing your job? Your impact is not just on 98th Street.
Yeah. No, we have Mount Sinai West on the west side, Mount Sinai South Nassau on Long Island. We have Mount Sinai Brooklyn. We're affiliated with Brooklyn Hospital, Mount Sinai Queens. It's all over. I was supposed to do a road trip on Friday, but things had to get canceled for other reasons. But so we have interactions and overseeing how we grow the women's health in many other places other than just the main hospital.
Go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
No, you.
Now, I was just curious, and for you to continue to build and expand in, with the workplace culture, like it's so important. As a leader, what are some things you value as part of your workplace culture? Would you say as some of the most important things for you?
Oh, like 100%. And you really, you, you know, you strive, and I continue to strive. It started with, honestly, my first two, when I first started I did two grand rounds on building a positive culture. I think, Vince is sort of the epitome of that, with happiness and everything. And I, so, learn that from him. You get inspiration. And I worked with Idalyn Carr, who,
Mm-hmm.
was involved with the Leadership Academy.
Yep.
And, we did surveys, um, and to this day, I mean, I'm going to do a faculty meeting in the end of May, and it's still building on that culture. It's, when people spend so much time working so hard, you want them to feel recognized and appreciated.
Mm.
And so we have we started on the labor floor a working group with nurses, anesthesiologists, residents, attendings, and they've been working to create this culture of positivity. They came up with the golden uterus award. I should have one in
Love
the room.
that.
It's a little golden uterus pin. So every month, there's about 3 or 4 people that get this golden uterus award, and it's just, we shout it out, we put emails out, and it's just a way of recognizing all the contributions that so many people make, to and they're all with the same. We all have the same goal of taking care of patients.
Mm-hmm.
That's
No.
great. Going back to the Dan O'Keefe, Leadership Academy,
Yeah.
do you remember your strengths? Did you take the Gallup strength surveys? Which one, if I
I,
can ask,
yeah,
your top five strengths?
I'm an influencer,
Okay.
and my other one I should remember. Um, it's like the ones that have to do with like sensitivity, compassion, and influencing, and
There's harmony, there's empathy.
empathy. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You
I'm
know,
not the like data driven, always data driven like that person. It's much more, I think, yeah.
it's if I could summarize, now, we know each other for so long. The message I think to young people should be, it's the way you are, Joanne, that has changed, people and mentees and daughters, etc. around you. You're always so positive. It could be
Mm.
a Saturday, and you may be in the office working. You could be in Greece in Santorini, preparing for whatever. And at SMFM, being present, always smiling, always positive, never complaining, being the example of work hard, play hard, family. You live it, and people can, and you could tell this, again, 20, 30 years ago, when we were probably, we did fellowship and training, similar times. It's amazing how, they say 70% of what you project is nonverbal. I think uh, you impersonate that, if I could say that.
No.
Well, thank you, but you do even more so, I
Yeah,
think.
for sure.
And I'm just humbled to be able to sit with both leaders that, lead by examples of showing that, yeah, you can do all these things and just be a kind, loving human that inspires just by being. So thank you both for being who you are and doing what you do. You know.
Well, Kavita, thank you. I mean, this I understand is your brainchild, and so you're living it yourself, right? You're modeling that positivity and that
Oh,
intensity to want to share, different people's visions and goals, and like I said, mentorship across the globe. Really, I mean,
yeah.
that's incredible, and um, I'm so inspired by you and both of you and what you're doing in this
No,
series.
thank
It's
you.
it's amazing.
No, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, and just talking, we you pivot a little from work and everything. If you go outside of work, what are some things you love to do for you that kind of fills your cup and makes you happy, makes you come alive? I know fashion definitely seems to be like one of them because every time I see her, I'm like, she is dressed to the top, always so beautiful, so perfect, best fashion style.
Well, I do like shopping. I do like clothes, but I think one of the things, honestly, one of the things for me is cooking. It's I'm not I'm not so I definitely think being artistic is a gene that gets inherited, and my mom is an amazing painter. So I have a painting that she did when she was a dental hygienist. There was a painting in the office of the dentist that she worked for, and she would at the end of the day be the last person to leave, and she would tuck it under her coat and take it on the subway and paint it, try to replicate it, paint it a little bit, and then bring it back and hang it up the next day. It took her months.
Wow.
And I have it. It's beautiful. And then later on in life, she started painting. I have a whole bunch of her paintings, and she's just self. She just
Precious.
self. And then my sister Lizzie, my oldest sister, and my sister Leslie, the dentist. So they're so artistic. So I don't have that gene. I can't even make a nice like stick figure. But in cooking is a creative outlet for me. But I also love feeding people, and so I always like to do a family Sunday dinner. Most of the time it works out, but doesn't always work out. And I bring like the whole, both sides of the family together for Memorial Day at my house in Connecticut, and I really like the creativity of cooking, but also the fact that you're making people happy and making food that they really like. So and for SMFM we did this second year. My husband's going to kill me. I don't think I could do this again, but we did this. We auctioned off a dinner at my house. It felt like 4 months practicing the food for like it was like a crazy menu and like really hard stuff for me to do. So yeah, that was pretty fun.
What do you like to cook, or what do your daughters like to eat, or what are the specialties?
Everybody's different, right? So my husband, he grew up in Argentina,
Right.
and so he's a meat eater and likes like really. I mean, now he likes fish, but he's more simple. If I'm not around, he'll buy a can of corned beef hash and cook. It looks like dog food for me. It's like what? Like I'll find it in the going, what is this?
I'm sure he likes to grill and
Yeah. And he actually took a cooking class recently, although hasn't made me anything yet.
Wow.
That's sweet.
Yeah. He wanted to take a class so he could cook for me, but hasn't happened. But he did teach me some interesting tricks. Like he learned the best way to peel ginger. You take a spoon and you just scrape the skin off. It gets right in between all the nooks and crannies of the ginger, and it really works. So, yeah. Chloe likes to bake, and Sabrina is gluten-free, and she also likes cooking. Like she'll come over, and I'm having a patient and her husband over tonight in my home for dinner. I'm close to them. I delivered the last kid, and she's pregnant now, so they're coming to my house for dinner. So they're gonna Chloe and Sabrina are gonna come. So
what are you making?
Well, the appetizers, I made these Parmesan cups and filled with goat cheese mousse, these portobello mushrooms with taleggio cheese, making
But I
gravlax.
wipe my saliva while you talk.
I know. And then
sounds very fancy. Yes.
Yeah, this butternut squash soup, and then I made this cauliflower panna cotta that gets topped with some caviar,
cool.
and then I'm going to do roasted branzino and roasted fennel, and
Wow.
yeah, and then
Full tasting course menu you got there.
yeah, key lime pie bars and
Key lime pie is my oldest son's favorite. We love key lime pie. We make it as well. That's great. That's empathic you as well, wanting to make people happy. We talk about love, Joanne, here, and love is making that a person happy the way they want to be happy. If they don't like chocolate but they like key lime pie, you make them key lime pie. You don't make chocolate, vice versa, and it sounds like you have perfected that. How does that help you, with your department? You have so many people. I guess I could see from the outside that your personal relationships, especially with the leaders, but probably with everyone, is what keeps it going. You go in every day.
Yeah. I'm here every day. Friday, sometimes half the day I'll do remote, but I'm here every day, and it's important to connect and I meet with all the division directors. We have My vice chair for administration has been here for, I kn- you know, over 30 years. She used to work as a, she's really inspiration as well. When I was a resident, we rotated through Elmhurst Hospital in Queens, and she was the secretary at that time. And then she went to school at night for healthcare administration, and then the former chair, Mike Robin, brought her over as an administrator, and she's Greek, so we call it the Oracle Committee.
Oh wow.
And so we have some of the leaders that you have to surround yourself by people who will be honest with you and tell you the truth and give you advice.
Yeah.
That's so key.
And
To
that,
take advice, and yeah. So we talk about some of the more complicated issues and how to address them. And there are other people that have areas of expertise, right? My head of GYN surgery. I mean, I don't know, I don't get to the OR, I don't do GYN surgery, so I need that advice from, what he can contribute. So I think, you rely on people, and then also bring again more junior faculty into the picture to help them grow.
yeah. No, I love that. And I think it goes to show that even though you're, at the level that you are, that learning is still continues to be such a big component of who you are. You're always still trying to learn and get advice. It's like it's a never-ending process, and that's just beautiful and inspiring.
Yeah, you never stop learning because there's always new challenges, and you have to try to figure them out, right? So you have to read, you have to ask questions, call people for advice. What do you do? So yeah, it's well, listen, it's why we went into medicine, right? I mean,
Yes,
it's about
100%.
teaching, and it's about learning, and it's about teaching, and taking care of patients, of course, but that's part of our job.
Yeah. When you look back at your career now, is there something today or a lesson you learned today that you're like, I wish I knew that earlier as a young MFM, or as someone that's starting off in their career?
I think just to have the courage to take a chance, and don't be afraid to fail. We're all going to fail at some things, but hopefully the successes will outweigh those failures. So I remember, I mentioned that, I didn't get the position as fellowship director and division director, and then the fellowship was put on probation for a while under the old fellowship director. So I still have it with me, these, sorry, hang on.
Get it.
This is my famous golf ball story. If you see these golf balls. So I took these from my husband's golfing cart or whatever, and I went into my chair and I say, I may not have my own set of balls, so I'm bringing these with me.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
I said, I want the job of I want to get a chance to have the job of fellowship director. And I can't remember which book it was, but it was about, how you communicate, and communicating with men actually, and speaking their language. And so I did a lot of speaking, like team this and sports this, and because I knew he was avid sports follower, and so I called it team fellowship, and yeah. So don't be afraid
Awesome.
to put yourself out there and go for it.
Another thing I've been thinking of in New York now, a lot of the leaders, your good friends, are women. And one thing I actually think it has been great for me, it's competition. It's not really competition, it's people who are good, and maybe for me, Penn or a Temple or whatever, and for you, Columbia and Cornell and NYU, and from the outside again, and I know you all. It's so nice to see the camaraderie, you guys must talk and collaborate and do research together. It's, some of the things some people can see, oh, I'll never, at Columbia next to me, I'll never do anything, or Cornell or whatever. And instead it's been, you all have blossomed, you're bigger and better than you were in the past. And it's all women basically. And you guys get along great. I don't know if you want to, I think that message is really, really important for people sometimes. Like, they don't put themselves out because they're afraid, because they're going to crush me, because they're so much better than me. And instead, it's life. It's a win-win. Because Joanne wins doesn't mean somebody has to lose. We can all win together, and you've been great at that.
No, that's such a good point. And I mean, Mary Dawn is just such a close friend of mine.
Yeah.
But yeah, lucky to be surrounded by so many incredible female leaders. But we did several years ago. We started this a couple years before COVID, and said, well, here we are in New York City. We're so close together. All of us are on the same EMR. We all have Epic. We formed a New York City MFM Research Consortium, and Vince, we did some work together during COVID. So we included some outside. So, and that's still going, and it's voluntary, and it's people getting together once a month. Angela now leads it from Sinai, but you're totally right. Everybody was excited to work together because you're better together. You can do so many more things when you're collaborative. So I think that's the spirit of who we are and what we want to aspire to.
And you've broken that glass ceiling, because it used to be all men, and you've broken the glass ceiling. SMFM, same thing. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your journey within SMFM, a society we all adore. And I'm sure you never planned to be president. You just wanted to, contribute and be in a committee and do this and do that and, just help the society because society helps so many people and 145 million birds, etc. And how was your experience there? I mean, you've been involved very, very closely with some of the major endeavors that SMFM has had for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so fortunate and grateful. I think it started off really with the Literature Alert series through the foundation. And somehow I got involved with doing the Literature Alert series, and then got on the Publications Committee, which is just an incredible committee. And then I don't remember what was the next committee so I kept on volunteering for more committees. And then I decided to run for the board, and luckily, was voted in as a member of the board. And then I'll never forget, it was like a first board meeting, and it was tradition at that time that like one of the new board members would serve on the committee to run the meeting, the program committee, the pregnancy meeting, which Vince came up with that. So Brian Mercer came up to me and sort of whispered, "Oh, would you be interested to serve on the program committee?" And I had like no idea what that was about. And so I said, of course, work on the program committee. And at that time, the head of the program committee, Andy, he passed away, and it was three of us that had to come together. And before this, the head of the program committee did everything.
Yeah.
And so we really changed it. We worked together. We asked Donna Johnson her advice, and then through that I realized, like, there was one person that knew everything. We had nothing written down, no roles, nothing. So then I said, like, let's create an online resource, and I said, let's come up, and I came up with asked different people to serve on different committees to outline how we should conduct the meeting and all the stuff. I didn't even realize, so I think I didn't do that because, I want to be president. I just did it because it was the right thing to do, and we needed to make sure that the next people that went on had some guidelines to look after. So I think that really helped. And then again, doing the Leadership Academy was like super helpful. And Dan was such a mentor in many ways. And somehow I got on the I'll never forget Alfred calling me, Bahamid calling me, and inviting me to be on the executive board, which is the pathway to presidency. So it was really a series of putting yourself out there and again, never saying no to a challenge, and then coming up with some ideas and just being a team player, right? We have to work as a team, and being on the program committee, that's what we did without, just the three of us, without really knowing too much. Sean Blackwell really was the most senior person on it at the time. So yeah, so that was.
It's a family, isn't it? SMFM really for
Love
all of
that.
us. We've spent so many decades together. It's really a family, and where personal relationships are wonderful. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say no, absolutely. And I think I love that you said it as part of the family because even as someone that as students or when you're young people and young members joining MFM, you feel that love from the leadership community because it really does spill over. No, I think it's really true, and that's why it's a community that people love so much. And I love that what you said, your journey, the way it's evolved into becoming even president. Your focus really was always about service. Like, how can I help people? Like you said, you curated those team roles. And I think when you come from a place of like, I just want to help, those opportunities then come your way because you're serving a greater purpose. And I think that's just so beautiful. We have, kind of coming down to our last few minutes. I was just curious, Joanne, if you had to describe yourself in one word, what word would that be?
Oh God.
Get creative, anything. I think
um,
it's always such a fun question. Yeah.
one word of myself. I guess just being, somebody that's just of service, right? Just a helper. I don't know, helper bee.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. That's beautiful. And I think that really reflects your whole journey and the stories you've been sharing so far, for sure.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
One last thing I wanted to bring up as well. You've been really involved with the AJOG, with the Great Journal.
Uh,
I know you have a huge passion for that. You gave Roberto the award, when you were president. And again, you said fellowship director, so I want to ask you the question again. What you like to do the most, but you certainly have done so many, different things and done them so well, and you always published as well.
Well, I mean, I am eternally grateful to Roberto for asking me to be an associate editor, and it's been an incredible experience. I mean, Vince, what you've done with HOC MFM, I mean, my God, like,
mhm.
like a year, like, getting on, it's amazing what you've done, and that's such a testament to you. Roberto, I mean, when he would call me, I'd be like sweating. I'm like, oh my God, like, now I get a little less nervous, but
Of course.
he's such an amazing visionary. I mean, he's a real visionary, and he's constantly working and thinking about how to make things better and what we should be doing. And I'm totally awed by him. And I get to in my group leader is Tony Vinceleos, and he's just always so. I learn every time he opens his mouth. I learn something. So
Yeah, yeah. You have your call today as well. I have my call later.
yeah, 3 o'clock.
It's a wonderful weekly thing. And again, Kavita, you will get there. It's nice because you get to see your friends. You're learning for the 1 hour because you're reviewing the latest, best, evidence. AJOG, obviously, the leader in our field, and you're doing it with your friends, and you're reading about your friends because a lot of people write. It's really a wonderful thing. I love the one word you picked, Joanne, kind of
Mhm.
like a helper, server. That says a lot about you and what you've done and the way you interact well with anybody. We talked about, from your daughters to your husband to your family to your mom,
Mhm.
to Roberto, to Mary, to all the people you mentioned. It's really the personal touch. The One of the things I admire you the most is that you never put yourself first. Even if you've been president and leader and whatever guru or Montane, I don't know whatever title you have, you still behave as I'm going to serve the division director, I'm going to serve the fellow, I'm going to help the medical student, which says mountains about who you are as a person.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm again like I think I wrote like I don't deserve to be on this,
No, you do. You
this,
do
No,
big
no,
time.
you were.
Big time.
but I mean, this has been such an honor, and it's so wonderful talking to both of you and sharing this time together. You both are really inspiring to me. So.
Thank you so much. And just to wrap it up, Joanne, I always, I know we started our talk with gratitude, but I feel like this moment, even to close today, I really have to express how sincerely I grateful I am for women leaders like you that set incredible role models for a whole generation of, young physicians, and not just in the healthcare field, like all the advocacy work and everything you do. It's so important. So thank you for all you do. And we're just so grateful that we were able to spend this hour with you and to share your story with the world. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Joanne. Everyone, have a great day. Thanks for being
Thank
with
you.
us.